Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another home studio show and tell. And tonight is a really interesting night for me because the two voice actors who are showing off their studios, graciously showing us their studios, I don't know them super well. Karen, I barely know you. Memo, we've known each other on and off a bit over the years. Um, a lot of these episodes, I know the voice actors very well. We hire them, we work together. I don't know much about you, and I'm very excited to see inside your studios and learn more about you. So, anyway, my name is David Goldberg. I am the super proud owner of Edge Studio. I think tonight might be episode 24 or something like that, which means I was thinking about this earlier. This is 2 years we've been running the show, which is amazing. So,
Yeah.
very fun. Um, and so let's jump right into meeting our two voice actors. Karen, why don't you go first? Can you tell us real briefly about you, your background in voiceover, what kind of work you do, where may we have heard your voice? Tell us.
Sure. I am Karen Clark, and I have been doing voiceover for almost 20 years. I've been doing it 17 years full time.
Great.
Um, yeah, I'm so blessed. I'm so lucky. Um, I mainly do commercial work, but I do a lot of narration, web videos, things like that. I do everything really, but I love commercial work. That's my favorite. Um, of all time. Yeah, I'm trying to think, where would you have heard me? Well, I got my start, actually, I guess I could show, but I got my start back in 2008 is when I booked my first really big gigs, and they were for Hannah Montana toy commercials. So there were several different toys that were manufactured by Disney licensee, and I did 5 or 6 commercials, and that sort of got me hooked in, and I started doing more toy commercials. And then as my voice evolved, I got to do I do more retail, grocery store type things, uh, shopping, because I love to shop. You really are drawn to things that you love to do, right? So yeah.
Karen, that's so cool.
Yeah, thanks.
17 years. You sound pumped about it. That's so exciting. I love hearing about voice actors and just working and knowing that you have a niche, in commercials that you really enjoy. That's great. Good for you.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Super excited for you. And Memo, what about you? Tell us a bit about you and where we've heard you and what kind of work you do.
Well, I started acting when I started my university. So it was at the same time. Halfway, I realized that I was a better actor than a better programmer of computers. So when I graduated, I went to London to keep on studying acting. I went back to Mexico and then met most of the people I knew from dubbing. I mean, from the TV shows that you watched in Mexico, they're in Spanish. So I went to a party and there was the voice of Farrah Fawcett Majors or Poncherello. And I asked them, is there a course or where can I try dubbing? So I took a course. I started working pretty soon. And then from dubbing, I went to commercials. And then Telemundo brought me to Miami. I was an on camera talent, but then they didn't renew my contract. So I went back to commercials and it's been a wonderful journey. I work mostly for the Hispanic market doing commercials. And if you saw like Water for Chocolate, that's a Mexican movie. I'm the voice of Marco Leonardi, the guy, because he was Italian. So his Spanish was like, Pero tita, ¿cómo es posible? So they needed a normal voice in Spanish, so I dubbed him. So you have heard me in the movie, and I dubbed Mel Gibson, John Travolta, Kevin Costner. I was the voice of Animal Planet, so I recorded for Latin America, but mostly my bread and butter is commercials here in the States.
Good for you. Interesting question. I remember, Memo, maybe 15 years ago, I'm guessing here, 15 years ago, watching a commercial during, I think, the Super Bowl. And it was a commercial for, I think, Verizon, and it was in Spanish. And it was the first time that I saw a commercial on American TV, during an American English show with a Spanish commercial. And that was really interesting. And I've seen more of those, of course, since. And I've seen commercials which are in Spanglish now, right, on national TV. Do you work also in the Spanglish? Do you offer that service? Do you also do English and Spanish? What kind of language work do you do?
Yes, mostly Spanish, but now they like the accent that if you're doing something for Latin people, that you have a little accent. So now there are more opportunities for people like me that have an accent to be working. So my goal would be to do the English and the Spanish at the same time. Uh, it was very difficult because they chose usually Dr. Kell with his perfect English, but now they are allowing, if the product is Latin related, for you to have an accent. So yeah, that's opening up and it's wonderful.
That's great. So let's dive into your studios, shall we? Karen, give us, if you can, a real brief overview of your studio, how it's situated. Do you have a built-out booth or not? Do you edit
Mm,
at the same in your same workstation? Just kind of
yeah.
like an overview of your studio would be amazing.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So, I have built a good number of studios in my lifetime because I've moved quite a bit. And so I've actually never had a booth. I always take a room. Well, I take that back. My very first studio was in a closet, but it was a pretty sizable closet. But I've always had a room. I'm going to scan here. So I have some natural sunlight. I have 12-foot ceilings in this room, so it's kind of tall. And I do have this little nook, which is a little bit of a problem. And it is pretty big. So I do have to make sure I have padding behind me. The other thing I want to point out, and I actually did this somewhat recently, I've always had my microphone in the corner, but I moved it out and so that I face my back to the corner now, because I was noticing I was maybe having a little bit more room noise or reflection, and now I face the center of the room, um, and it cuts down a little bit on the boxiness, if you will. I use a
Can
Sennheiser.
we should talk about that for a minute because that's a
Mhm.
great suggestion for people to know or to think about. Like when you set up your studio, right? If you have your back to the corner, there
Mhm.
then the microphone is facing you, which means the microphone is facing the walls behind you, which you
Right,
have padded. So that does get rid of a lot of ambient noise, and that's a great lesson for people to think about. Whereas it may seem intuitive to sort of face the opposite way, but then the microphone is facing outward, getting the whole room, whether it's getting HVAC noise or people or any ambience from that room. So that's a great
right.
switch. And so before you talk about your microphone,
Mhm.
Memo, let's get a
Yeah.
quick shot of your studio. Real
Yes.
like quick layout, just the footprint here.
Okay, so it's a whisper room, double wall whisper room, 4 by 4. And as you can see, I have a U87 and a 416 and a lot of bass traps. And that's it. I have a television outside of the room. I'll show you later how I set it up. And then I have my keyboard and the trackpad over there. So you can actually edit from here. But I actually like to edit outside, so
Mm.
this is where I edit. I think it's simpler to be outside of the small space.
Okay. So you very two very different approaches to studios, right?
Yeah.
Having one room with the mic in the middle. And therefore, so Karen, you only need one station, one workstation, whereas Memo, you can work in two different areas, which is interesting. And that one is right for everyone, right? You guys all have to just figure out really what is best for you. Great that you have a Memo. Great that you have the bass traps in the whisper room because I have found whisper rooms notoriously are not super quiet. Or not that they're loud, they're resonant, they're ambient, there's echo
Mhm.
inside. So they take a little beefing up typically, and it's great that you have the double wall also. So Karen, let's hear about your microphones. What
Sure.
do you record on? Where did you start with what kind of microphone? And are you still on the same mics or have you changed over the
This
years?
is my very same microphone that I bought 20 years ago.
Wow, that's got its money's worth. That's great. Good.
Yeah, for
So you
sure.
said it's a Sennheiser, which one?
It's a 416.
Okay.
Yeah, and, my setup is really, really simple. When I first started, I had a Symmetrix 528E.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah, I had a
They are
little
the best. It's
board.
all like one easy strip. It's done.
Right. Well, a couple years ago, I decided to become an audio purist, because it seems like nobody really wants compression. Nobody wants anything really, right? They just want your sound. So I have this. I have a universal. Audio Volt, very simple little interface, and I have Pro Tools, and that's it. That's all I have. I don't even have monitors. I use headphones. Um, yeah, it's pretty simple.
So
I stopped using monitors. Yeah.
yeah, well, editing is much better on headphones. Wait. So, Karen, you never process, you don't compress, you don't normalize, you don't EQ, nothing?
No, nothing. I mean, I might do a little RX denoise.
Okay.
I've even stopped normalizing because the audio engineer that I spoke with a few weeks ago, who recommended that I move my microphone out, like I have, he's been a longtime friend of mine, and I've worked with him forever. He said, "Look, just you need to just set your gain on your volt every time. So for whatever you're doing, just set your level and go." He goes, and I said, "But everybody's told to normalize. I mean, this is what we're told to do." And he said, "Honestly," I said, "Why are we told this?" He goes, "Because somebody said you should." And it just kind of went. He goes, "But ideally, your gain should really be all you need." So that's what I've been doing for a few weeks now.
Yeah, I think that might work for some people and not for everyone because
Right.
some people are really dynamic, number one. Some people move about the microphone, right, a
Mhm.
lot, so their volume is going to be very inconsistent. And if you're sending, well, this is my 2 cents. If you're sending audio to a client who doesn't have the skill set to be able to normalize or compress or EQ,
Hmm.
they may want something that sounds more finished.
Right.
So at our studio, we have 5 studios. We always want raw audio. Like, Karen, what you deliver is exactly what we would want because we know that we know how to compress, right? We know all that stuff. So we can do that. And we also work on Pro Tools, so that's super simple, right? So we say, send us raw audio. Raw, raw, raw. It's like rah, 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 but raw, raw, raw. And but other clients, I'm sure, will say, no, send us something finished because or even when we are record in-house, we have clients who want processed audio, so it's interesting. Um, but anyway, that's cool. So, Memo, what about you? You mentioned
No,
your
I'm
mics
exactly like
briefly.
Karen. I don't process anything. I just edit. If they need
Mhm.
it in 30, I will go to 29.5 or 29, depending on what they want. So editing, I'm very good at that. But to actually equalize or normalize, I give that to someone else, to an audio engineer. So if I need finished audio, I will send it to someone for 1 hour, and then he will either put music or just do the EQ. And I find it's easier that way because he knows way much than I do about EQing and all that. So in Mexico, we say zapatero a tu zapato. So shoemaker, go to your shoes. So yeah, I'm not good at equalizing. Let the professional people do it.
Okay, so which mics are you on? You mentioned quickly. Let's go back to your mics, Memo.
Yes. So, and I'm gonna let me turn. Okay. So I have now, I started with a Rode NTK for the longest time. And suddenly a studio was closing and they were selling the U87, I think about $2,000. So I said, well, now is the time to buy one. And then I was gonna travel a lot, so I noticed that the 416 is very forgiving. So I bought the 416 to start traveling with my equipment, and I can connect the U87 here with. I have the cable here, and then outside I have my Apollo Solo, but now I have this microphone connected to it, to the second microphone input, because I sometimes record talent, and that way I can communicate with the talent. I don't need to be in the booth. And I was going to show you what I did with the TV. So let me show you. This is the booth.
Yeah,
Oh, this is interesting. So, in order for it not to be so hot, I connected this big tube to the to the actual AC of the whisper room. So I get the AC that comes from that vent into the booth. So that is perfect, and it doesn't make any noise. And now on the window of the whisper room, I have this television. I just put one of these alpha things from one strap to the other one, And then with straps, I kind of just hook it to the TV, and that TV is the one that allows me to do dubbing from inside the booth. And I would just take out this so I can see the whole TV. Yeah, just take this one out.
That is terrific. I've never seen anyone have mount a TV or a monitor directly outside their booth like that. That's great.
Yeah, and
Terrific idea.
having two mics, it helps a lot because sometimes the mics will not work perfectly, and it's great that the audio engineer will tell you, well, it sounds muffled, which just happened to me 2 weeks ago, and I just hooked the other mic and it was okay. So I have another 416 that they're servicing, and they will send it back. So now I can have my traveling studio ready to go, that I will just grab it instead of having to unhook everything.
That is terrific. Okay, great. Karen, so you are
Yeah.
on Pro Tools.
Yes.
So few home studios use Pro Tools. You know, you've got to be in the minority here, but it's great. Pro Tools is such a powerful program. Have you ever thought about moving to something else that's simpler, or just because you learned Pro Tools, it was one of the older programs?
Yeah, so when I first started, I had a mentor who was pretty successful, and they sort of said, "These are the things you need to build your studio." And it was an investment of money, um, but it was sort of like, if you build it, they will come. I even put in ISDN lines, right? So I did start with Pro Tools about 8 or 9 years ago. I tried using what's the Adobe one? Audition.
Audition.
But you I really found it more difficult to use because I was so used to Pro Tools, so I just went back to Pro Tools.
Well, it's great too because since a lot of commercial studios, like our studios, are on Pro Tools, you can send an entire session, right? You don't even need to send
Mhm.
the finished tracks. You can just send the session. They have all the
Yeah,
stems then and everything. That's nice.
yeah, it's great.
How often does a client ask for just the final audio versus the entire Pro Tools session?
I have to tell you, well, 50-50, maybe?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And great that you had ISDN. I bet a lot of people on this call don't know what ISDN is. I'm wondering if I even know what it's. I probably did know what it stood for. Inter something standard something. I don't even know
Digital
anymore.
network or something, I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, ISDN. ISDN was the pre-internet way for us to send digital audio from one studio to another. Basically, ISDN is a digital phone line. So I'm going to start with an analogy here. If you have a telephone, a landline, for example, a landline. Well, most of us don't even have landlines anymore. Oh my goodness, we're like
Mm,
really in the future. But if you had a landline phone, and someone else has a landline phone, and if there's a wire that interconnects them, then you guys can talk to each other. That's what ISDN was. If one studio had an ISDN, basically an ISDN phone, and another studio had an ISDN phone. And if you had an ISDN cable that connected them, the ISDN cables that are on the utility poles, then you could have a digital signal go back and forth. And they work. I mean, in most ways, they work great. They were expensive. You had to pay for an ISDN signal from AT&T or wherever your phone carrier was. And now those things are out. They're
yeah,
completely gone. Now we use digital versions of the software that goes through the internet. Like most common these days are Source Connect, IPDTL, Session Pro Link. I mean, there's lots of different software. But that's so cool that you're on ISDN. Do you still have your ISDN box, or did you get rid of it?
I threw it away. No, you know what? I didn't throw it away. I gave it to my friend who collects them. He still has an ISDN box. I'm not sure I think he still has his lines. He's
How? I don't do they
nearby.
offer it anymore?
Yeah, I know. Well, our phone company did for the longest time. I'm not sure. Maybe he did just get rid of them. I just got rid of mine 2 years ago.
Oh my
So
goodness, wow.
I
They
have
may
Source
still be
Connect and
used.
I've had it for a long time, but I kept
Wow.
my ISDN for a long time.
2 things. 1, someone rocks. They wrote, Integrated Services Digital Network. Who
There
is
we
that?
go.
Not like wait, is that R. Martin?
Yeah.
R. Martin, thank you. That rocks. Thanks for sticking that up there. In Manhattan, we we had to get rid of ISDN because the phone companies like AT&T or whatever Ma Bell company we had back then, they stopped providing it. Like, we had no choice. Like, we
Mhm.
we just couldn't get it anymore. I feel if I remember correctly, that was probably like 10 years ago, perhaps, and then they came back for a bit, and then it went away again. Memo, what about you? Did you use, ISDN? Actually, sorry, wait, Karen, so what do you use in place of ISDN? And then let's talk with Memo about that.
Source Connect. And then some of my overseas clients use something else that I can't remember what it is, and they'll send me a link. I forget what it's called.
Session Link Pro.
Yeah, that might be it.
Or
Yeah,
IPDTL, they can send a link also.
yeah.
Session Link Pro is great. We began using that for one particular client, also, an overseas client about, 6 months ago, and it's been really great. They pride themselves on having, like, 0 latency, and it's really been impressive. Memo, what about you? I assume that you were on ISDN at some point?
I no, I was not. And I resisted because someone told me that the technology was going away. So I resisted as much as I could. And when I needed to do one ISDN session, I would just rent a studio. So in the end, it was better to just rent a studio when you needed ISDN. So when Source Connect came out, I immediately jumped into Source Connect. I used IPDTL also a lot because you could buy a 1 day pass and it
Mhm.
was wonderful for a recording. I think it was $20. And now I use Source Connect almost every day. I tried the Source Connect 4 and the latency is so minimum. The test that I was doing, the other talent said, look, there's no latency. And I told him, no, there is a slight latency, but it's great. And I've recorded from anywhere in the world. Liverpool, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, Madrid, and it has worked perfectly.
Oh, that's terrific. Very cool.
Yeah.
Um, so I want Memo to show us something. Memo, before we got on this call, you were telling Karen and me about this cool contraption you've made. Can you
Oh,
show us more about this?
yes, of course. So I travel a lot abroad, and I invented so many ways of building forts and all that. So lately, there are two things that I've been using. The Vomo, I think it's called. I can show it to you later. But also, if you need to record for longer time, then there's uh, a PVC thing that I created. I've created many things, but let me show you first what I used to record on the road. Well, of course, the Apollo Solo is what I mostly take, but now I have this Centrans that you can connect the mic here. So you would actually have it like this. So instead of having two things, you can just have this one thing with the interface and the microphone. And this one as well. You connect the microphone there, although you cannot mount this one on a tripod. I used to have this tripod, but this one is better because you can have it flat or you can connect it to something, and that has served me well. So now this is the contraption that I made, and it's a PVC thing, very simple. As you can see on the top, you only have this part and this part, not the one in the front because you really don't need it. And all of this will fit in a carry-on luggage in one side. And I can do it. I mean, if we were doing it like showing the studio at a time, I was gonna unhook all that and put it here so you can see that you can have it in one side of your carry-on and then you can have your clothes on the other side.
Memo, tell us
And
what it is. We don't know what it is. There's a secret here. What is this thing? When you piece it together, what does it do? What is this PVC?
oh, okay. So the way that I would use it is you put the comforter on top of this, and then you can face the actual curtain of your room. So you will have a non-reflective surface. And then you put either pillows or you put the things from the sofa, the seat or the back part, and you put it here. And then you just sit. Let me grab the chair.
So this is
So
when
you
this is what you take with you when you go into a hotel room.
Yes, exactly. This
Okay.
or the other one. Let me bring the other one so I can show you what I do. But this is it. I mean, you have the comforter on top of it and you're sitting there. So for long sessions, it's perfect.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yes. So now let me show you the other option.
How long does
This
it
is
take? How long does it take you to put
to put it
together?
together, less than 5 minutes. So it's
Wow.
super quick. So let me grab the other stuff very quickly. It's on the other room. Let me
This
grab
is
it.
great, guys. So, for those of you who are not used to this or traveling as a voice actors notoriously have to craft something in a hotel room because when you go into a hotel room, it's not made for a recording studio. The floors could be hard. The walls don't have any foam on them. You know, nothing's treated for acoustics. So, what a lot of voice actors do is one of two things: they either record literally sitting on the mattress, taking the comforter from the bed, putting it over their head. Maybe you bring a flashlight in with you or use your phone and you take your microphone under the blanket and it's probably very uncomfortable, right? You probably need a chiropractor when you're done, but the sound is amazing. But
Yes. And
it's
this,
dark inside, it gets hot inside because you're buried in this blanket. So for a short commercial or an audition, I think that's fine, but you would not want to do that long term. A lot of other people in hotel rooms will they always get a hotel room with 2 queen beds rather than 1 king size. Then you take the 2 mattresses and you build a teepee like this, like 1 mattress against the other, and then you hang a blanket down one side. That is sort of approximating what Memo has created here. Memo, I love this. This is so cool.
so this is a Vomo that you can buy, but the secret is that you don't have the part that goes down here, which is a metallic uh, thing. So you will not be able to travel with that with a carry-on. And then on the back, it has some things, hard rods here that you don't need. And what I did is take out the things that come with it, and I created, let me put this on the floor so I show you exactly what it is.
Yeah, if you can back up a little bit, that will make it easier
Yes.
for us to kind of take it all in.
Yes. So this, I went to Home Depot and bought it because the ones that they have, you cannot take them apart. But this ones also can go inside the carry-on. And then you just put them together with this little plastic. And instead of the two that come with this that you cannot put on a carry-on, then I just bought this in Home Depot. Then you create the teepee that you mentioned, but with something that will go in your carry-on. And that's also what I do. And this, if you compress it, it will fit in a backpack. So that's it. This in a backpack and you're set.
And I've seen products like this online, but what's brilliant about this is that it probably costs way less and you customize it to your taste, your
Yeah.
colors, whatever you want. That is brilliant to make that and find those pieces at Home Depot. Guys, if you do something like this, then you probably want to use a shotgun microphone as Memo is using. Because a shotgun microphone, that's the long, skinny microphone that we're seeing that Karen also uses. Those microphones are really directional. They're hyper directional. Yeah, thank you, Memo. So what they do is that microphone will pick up the voice that's in front of it, but not too much to the side, to the top, to the bottom, or anything. And that way, if the room behind you is ambient, which it probably is in a hotel room, it's not the microphone won't pick up too much of that.
And yeah, and what Karen is doing is putting her mic the way it is. It's the way that you should do it. And many people do it the other way around.
Absolutely. Yeah, Karen, what you've done is you've approximated the booth that Memo just showed us, right?
Yeah.
By
So
talking into it.
interestingly enough, so I typically, when I travel too, um, I've never been very successful in setting up anything that sounds very good. And I don't like being uncomfortable under a comforter because I find it super distracting and I just can't do the read well. Um, so I usually go rent studio space. However, um, that being said, I have purchased a few things to craft what Memo has sort of done. I bought a children's tent that is basically like for the beach. You can find them on Amazon and they're like $25 and it's about the same size. It's like to put your baby in when you're at the beach. and it folds up like it folds up sort of like a sunshade.
Hmm.
So it's flat, and then it pops out, and yeah, so you can put your microphone inside, and then I have moving blankets that my thought is to like, you know, do the moving blanket thing with like an ironing board or something behind me. But I just haven't actually used it. I've purchased all the accoutrements, but I haven't done
Accoutrements.
it.
But Karen, that is brilliant.
I
That's a
Googled.
great idea.
You have to be
Seriously.
creative, yeah. And
Yeah.
that is wonderful, Karen. I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah. I'll send you the link.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, so many people have, and what Memo has done, which I think is amazing, and I would love for you to build me something. I'll pay you. Like,
I
because I
told
can't
Memo, I told you that would happen once you show this.
I can't build because I forget what booth that is is it the Tri booth that people travel with? It's
Yes.
$1,500. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. There are a
I
lot of booths available if you search on eBay and Amazon. If you look around, there are a lot of booths which are really pretty terrific and work in all different situations. There are tabletop booths.
Hmm.
It was like, I mean, just there are all shapes and sizes. Ones you stand in, ones you sit in. There's a lot out there if you do a little bit of searching. If you know kind of the keywords to search for, you can really find this stuff. And it's great to be creative, but to make them on your own, I think that's brilliant. Um,
The tri booth is wonderful. I mean, I wish
I've
I had
heard.
one. The only thing is that to travel with it, you need a bigger suitcase, and I
Okay.
don't like to put anything under the airplane. I just need my carry-on, and that's why I haven't used it. But I there's a tri booth in my future.
I would like a tri booth as well. The only thing is too, like I already travel with a full size suitcase because I'm female. So I would have to have two full size suitcases. That's a lot.
But you can adapt it. Like this thing, I adapted it to carry it on a backpack. And
That's
then
amazing.
usually you cannot do that. So always be invented, always be creative and find a way of making it work for you.
I love what you've built. It's amazing.
Someone asked a question in the chat. By the way, guys, you're welcome to ask questions in the chat. We've only had one or two. Someone asked, Memo, do you have a picture of your booth fully assembled? Something you can show us?
I I do, but not this one. This one I have several versions and I have but let me get a comforter and I'm gonna show you what I do. So I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Karen, while Memo is off grabbing a comforter, which I'm anxious to see that, can you tell us a bit more about your studio? Because one thing that interests me is you showed us a nook off to the side and you said that nook
Mhm.
is not that great. I'm thinking that's terrific because, I mean, on one hand, the larger the room, the harder it is to control the sound because you have more space, more walls, more surfaces to
Right.
treat. And you have a lot of hard wood, like a lot of area, but right where you record, of course, is a much more foamed out, if that's a new
Hmm.
expression. But that nook, that breaks up standing sound waves. I think that would be terrific.
Um, I think, quite honestly, I didn't actually treat it till a few weeks ago again because my friends we were just sort of troubleshooting things. I wasn't having a problem with my sound, but he just said it could be better. You know what I mean? So, and especially since he was like, stop normalizing. So I was like, okay. So I treated these things, and quite honestly, what he has also suggested, which I haven't done yet, is getting some clouds to suspend
I'm
from the ceiling.
surprised. I was shocked you don't have them. Yeah, you know what a
Yeah.
lot of people do now in a situation like yours is, and I'm not saying this is right for you, but to hang a curtain, hang a shower curtain rod behind where you're standing.
Yeah.
And instead of hanging a shower curtain, you hang a moving blanket on that, right? And then you really have a smaller space that you're contending with a cloud on top, of course. That I'm shocked that you don't have a cloud,
I
but
know.
evidently it works, I
I've
guess.
been here 8 years, and I mean, I don't get complaints per se, but we're always striving for that pristine sound, right?
Mhm.
So things are fixable. They're fixable. They can compress and equalize or whatever engineers do, but they don't want to have to do that. Like I said, I don't get complaints, but I do want it to be pristine. So I'm working toward that. To your point, I have built a studio like that. I was renting an apartment once and I couldn't, you know, put foam on the walls. But what I did was I went to IKEA and I bought those rails. They're metal rails, and I suspended them from the ceiling. I forget how I suspended them. I must have drilled into the ceiling. And then hung basically like blackout curtains
Hmm.
from them and
Yeah.
created a smaller space for myself.
Yeah, and that's great because then when you're working, you can enclose yourself in,
Yeah.
and when you're done, you open it up, and then
Yep.
you don't need foam on, like, around that nook area that we just looked at a moment ago,
Right.
and, so you really do have a much smaller space to contend with. And if you
Hmm.
get a curved curtain rod, that's great because it even further breaks up the sound, right? By not having
Yeah.
so much of a square area.
Yeah. That's a good thought.
Okay, so let's see what Memo has to show us
So
here.
let me show you. I didn't have the big comforter, so I grabbed the things that we use on the TV. So they are smaller. So this is it. And I'm gonna take out things so you know. So this is a very small thing that you use on the TV. So, but it will be perfect for the back, or you can be against the curtain of your hotel. And then if we take out this one, you see that this is also very small, so either a double bed or a king size will go all the way down here, or at least more than this. And then on this side, you can put the sofa thing that you have in the back. And
Mhm.
let me go inside here. And that way, or you can put also a pillow on this side. So this one plus a pillow, and you're set. And that's it. Very simple.
And what we're looking at right now is where your microphone goes, and you sit inside on
Exactly.
that chair.
Hmm.
Exactly. You sit here and your microphone will be actually here. Exactly. And you can have your computer here, or if it has a fan, just put it outside and then you're all set. Yeah. You'll record here, or you can mount it here with that thing that I show you. And that way you don't need uh, a popper stopper. You mount this from there, and then your microphone will be pointing down. Yeah.
So cool.
And that's it. Very simple.
And may I say, and I bet I speak on behalf of everyone, you have the most fun blankets. Avocado Man and Star Wars, come on.
They are my kids. So yeah. Yes, indeed.
The Avocado Man, it looks kind of a cross of Gumby and Mr. Bill to me or something, or Potato
Yeah.
Head. No, like Mr. Potato Head, but
Yeah.
it's avocado, I think.
We are Mexican, and yeah. We actually sometimes have Mexican dinners for friends and all that. So people enjoy Mexican food.
Yeah. No, that's terrific. So, okay, let's go back. Let me see if there's another question here or two. There are. Someone said noticing that only sections of the wall have foam. This is from Daniel. I'm not sure whose studio they're talking about. Is there a guideline for how much percent or what percentage of the wall needs to be covered? Oh, yeah. I know the answer to this one, Daniel. So Daniel is asking what percentage of wall should be covered, and I can tell you, uh, there is no set number. Danielle, it depends on so many factors. Oh my goodness. It depends on if your floors have carpeting or not. It depends on how loud of a speaker you are. It depends on how far your voice projects. It depends on how the genre that you use. It depends on whether or not you move a lot around the microphone or not. Like there are lots of considerations. So when we look at Karen's studio, behind her was completely foamed out, but nothing on top, right? Which she mentioned that she may put a cloud in there. But past that, there was really sparse. Maybe what you have outside of your recording, that little corner, Karen, your walls, is it 10% coverage?
Oh goodness.
20%? I mean,
Let's
it's not that
see.
much.
I'd say 50% maybe.
Oh, there is 50%. I was looking at that nook. Well, but your ceilings aren't covered.
No,
Yeah.
no.
So, and what about your floors there? Are those hardwood floors? Yeah.
They are
But
hardwood
they
floors,
have the carpeting in the middle.
and I have a giant carpet, and it has a half-inch pad underneath.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Yeah. I would
Yeah.
say I did have carpet till 2 months ago, but we put hardwood in our home, so I had to figure it out. But, um, ideally, if you can have carpet, the whole area. Oh, and I should say I have a little fuzzy rug under my mic too, because yeah, I mean the carpet doesn't extend that far. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
that's also good for eliminating vibrations, right, that come up through the microphone. If
Yes.
you live in a home, guys, with by a road where there might be loud trucks that, cause vibrations, or near an airport where there are airplanes flying above, or you live in an apartment building with people, above where you have footsteps and stuff, or dogs walking around, that stuff can really cause vibrations. So, Karen, what you've done there with something soft under your microphone stand to eat up the vibrations, that helps a lot.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Memo. I
Yes.
don't did you mention what software you're using?
Oh, Pro Tools. Yes. And
You're also on Pro Tools.
yes, like Karen, I started when Pro Tools started, so it was the standard. So why buy something that's not the standard if you are a professional? So I mean, now it's different. So I'm talking about the olden times.
Mhm.
So I asked an audio engineer to teach me how to do it, and he taught me just the bare minimum, like how to record, and that was it. And little by little, I started discovering many things. Like when you don't have the waveform, where do you change that? Or suddenly, if you don't have the three things selected on the top, how do you go back to that? I mean, trial and error.
Mhm.
Because I had everything written down, but sometimes you do a shortcut and you don't know what you did, and something it's totally off of the way that you used to do it. So if you have it and you know how to use it, it's great. Because as you mentioned, now for audiobooks, there's a company that wants the whole session, and they even want the edits like they are, because they can move the edit a little bit. So I just send them the session and I edit something that is correct. I mean, no mistakes, but they have the actual cut that I did, so they can either move it a little to the right or to the left.
Yeah, that is great. So for anyone out there, if you are in Pro Tools, there are a lot of advantages because so many of the commercial studios are also working in Pro Tools, but I will also say that Pro Tools, it can be overwhelming because it's such a powerful tool. It offers much more than you really need as a voice actor. And so if you are brand new, Pro Tools could be a bit intimidating. It might be easier to start on something like Audition or some of these smaller programs. And there's nothing wrong with the smaller programs. I think it's important to note that all of the programs essentially sound the same. They're essentially doing the same thing. It's just more or less control of that sound. But they all take digital audio in and they spit digital audio out, and they just let you manipulate it in different ways. So it's kind of like driving different cars. You could drive a high-end Ferrari, which might be equivalent to Pro Tools. It's a lot of power, and maybe it has all kinds of cool driving controls, like off-road, on-road, or power mode, or sports mode, and things. Or you can get like a little cruddy car, but they both do the same thing, right? They get you from point A to point B. And so, in fact, oh, sorry, Memo, 1 second, just so you
No, no,
guys
no.
know. So my 5 studios, the commercial studios, are all Pro Tools. At home here, where my sons record audiobooks, both of them are recording audiobooks now. I have Adobe Audition with a USB microphone, and it is great. At the studios in New York, where my studios are, I have U87s and old TLM 103s and all kinds of stuff. $100 microphone with free software, Adobe Audition. And I think the reason it sounds good where they record is because the acoustics, like, I have really good baffles around me. You can't see them from where you are, but, like, behind me is cement wall, but in front and to both sides and on top, it's all baffled. It's very Karen, it's like your place, just with a cloud, and it sounds great. So, you can really do very well with inexpensive software or free. Audition is free, I think, right? I think.
I think it's a subscription, but I could be
No,
wrong.
not Audition, sorry.
Audacity.
Audacity, sorry, I have
Audacity.
Audacity. Sorry about that, yeah. Yeah, Audacity,
Oh yeah.
and that's free. And, so you don't need to go crazy expensive. Memo, what did you have to say, though?
Oh, that they are still selling in some places the version that you can buy without having to pay every month of Pro Tools. So if you want to do that, but you need to learn how to use other software as well.
Yeah.
I was on an airplane and they needed me to edit something. So I don't know if it was the script or something else, and I edited there and send it through the Wi-Fi in the airplane, and it worked. So I was able to edit it and then send it through the Wi-Fi. Technology is
Amazing.
amazing.
That is great. Let's see. Karen wrote, oh, that's Karen. You wrote that you, both of you use Pro Tools. Where do you find voiceover dubbing work? Uh, Let me send that question to both of you. Karen, I'm not sure if you do dubbing. You didn't mention that, but you might do dubbing. You did say, Karen, you've done everything at some point or another.
I
Um,
haven't done dubbing and I haven't done audiobooks, but I'm actually looking at doing some dubbing. I need to learn it first, however. So I've investigated that and found someone who will teach me. So that's down the road, but I have to prioritize all the things I want to do. And I really want to do in-show narration next. So I'm sort of,
Great.
yeah,
There is a dubbing school based in Miami. That's where you are, right? You're
Yes.
or for
I'm
well,
across
you're in
the
Fort.
way.
Okay, across the way. Okay, well, they're based in I think they're in Miami, and they teach. They kind of go on the road, and they teach in New York, and they teach it. They use our studio for their classes, and they're great. And they help people learn how to get into dubbing work for in voiceover work. So, I can always get you in touch with them if you want.
Thank you. That'd be great. Thank you.
And Memo, what about you?
I know that Zoo Digital or Zoo Dubs, they are doing remote dubbing, and also now they're giving classes as well. So that's the only option that I see right now. I know there are some people giving classes, so that's a great resource that you have. Uh, the other dubbing that I do is for people that already know you, so they don't like losing time, so they want someone that knows how to work. Uh, but if you take their classes or their courses and they see that you're good, then you will eventually get hired. So just take the classes and know the people, and eventually you will get there.
Yeah, for all of you, if you're not familiar with dubbing work, in many ways, it's the difficult type of work in the voiceover industry. Well, it's not really fair to say. There are a couple of different genres which are difficult for different reasons. Dubbing can be very challenging. If you're not used to it, you can't just walk into a session and expect to be able to nail it. It can take a little while learning how to look at a monitor and script, maybe listen to a director and dialogue at the same time, listen to beeps that kind of help you cue in and stuff like that. There's kind of a lot to it. But then again, audiobooks can be mentally overwhelming and physically exhausting for other people. So I think lots of genres have their pluses and minuses, or they're challenging. You need strengths and weaknesses, and you need to know what where your strengths and weaknesses are to figure out the genres of voiceover which are best for you. Okay, so we're down to just a few minutes. Someone wrote "Twisted Wave" with Sennheiser MK4 in a closet booth, getting good. I think they meant good client response here. Oh, so someone, yeah, that's what someone has. They're using Twisted Wave, which is a very popular program. It's been out for quite some time. With an MK4, it's a great mic in a closet booth. Yes, so your closet booth is not that meaningful. It's how you've acoustically treated that closet booth. That's what we'd want to know. Whoever wrote that, if you're getting good response, let me know. Reach out to me, and maybe you can go on to an episode of Home Studio Show and Tell. By the way, we have a super cool episode. I think it's scheduled for next month. I'm not able to share what it is now, but it's going to be a very unique, very special episode of Home Studio Show and Tell. Any last questions, Karen and Memo? Do you have any questions, things that you've wondered that you may be able to ask everyone out there, and maybe someone has the answer? Like someone told us what ISDN stands for. Do you have any questions that you'd like to ask everyone? And everyone else, do you have any last questions for Karen and Memo?
I see somebody has a question for me. I noticed a window in Karen's space. Did she need to do any additional treatment for it?
Oh yeah.
Um, I stuck a piece of, you can't really see it because it's dark outside now. There's a piece of foam behind the blind, but no, actually, I haven't done any additional treatment for it. And I
We've
love
had
my light. I love natural light. I'm
Yeah,
in
it's
here
so
all
nice.
day. So,
We've had, I think 3 episodes where the voice actors have talked about what they've done for to have windows and kind of keep it quiet. 2 I think 2 different voice actors throughout the past episodes have mentioned a company called soundproofwindows.com or something like that. Um, and that doesn't mean that it's acoustically helpful. It just means that it's helping stopping noise from coming in. So I think it needs to be said that when you run a studio, when you're building your voiceover booth, acoustically you need to think about 2 things: soundproofing and sound absorption.
mhm,
And so soundproofed windows helps with soundproofing. That prevents noise from getting onto your microphone, noise from coming in your windows. That doesn't help at all. It doesn't help at all with sound absorption. But there is another company that sells, something like it's like foam for a window, but it's translucent. It's the coolest thing.
oh,
Yeah, it's, I don't know the name of it, but I read about it many years
huh,
ago, and I know that I think they're still out there. It's a very thin piece of essentially like plastic,
hmm,
perforated with like millions of little holes. So it stops, I guess it stops a lot of the sound from going through and somehow eats up the sound waves. I don't understand exactly how it works, but you can put this over a window or, even on a wall or something, and it stops a lot of the sound from passing through. It's like a screen door, I guess.
wow, that's
We
fascinating.
need to look into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah, it
sure.
came up in one other episode, and I didn't remember the name, and I don't remember it now, but I will look it up in
I
case
will
it ever comes
say,
up again.
I live in a very quiet neighborhood. I mean, I live in Fort Myers, Florida. I live in a retirement community. The only noise that's going on around here is the lawnmowers on Tuesdays. And I
And the
know
leaf
not to,
blowers.
And
yes,
the
and the
leaf
leaf
blowers.
blowers. And I know not to schedule any sessions on Tuesdays. So honestly, it's and the garbage truck. So there have been occasions where, I'm in a session and the garbage truck rolls down the street. And generally, people, actually, always, people are understanding. I mean, it happens. What can I do?
That's great. Yeah, it's good to have clients that understand that. Okay,
Nice.
well, we have, oh, there's one last window, one last question here. Oh, no, that was the question we just talked about. Okay. I want to, really thank Karen and Memo. They have donated their time to showing off their studios, answering questions. Um, so, guys, thank you so much. It was
Thank
really
you.
wonderful to get to know more about you. Wonderful to hear what kind of work you do. Sounds like you're both pumped about what it is that you're doing for work. Great to see your studios and a memo. Your contraption. You should call it the memo booth or something. Whatever it is, it's so cool. Like really, you know.
Awesome.
Um, you two rock. Thank you so much for just for being here. Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
having us.
This
Thank
was
you for
fun.
inviting. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I hope I meet you when I go to Sarasota, Karen.
Yeah, same. I know we're not that far away. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's terrific. Okay.
And we'll send you a photo.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, let me see. Someone said, great session. Thanks to Memo and Karen. See that, guys? You rock.
Aw,
Voice, David, I love this community. The community, thank you for introducing and inviting me into it. Thank you, R. Martin. Cool. Karen and Memo, thank you again. Guys,
Thank you.
this episode will be posted on our website within a few days. And you can come back and watch it anytime and take it all in.
great. Thank
Everyone,
you so much.
yeah, I wish
Thank
everyone
you,
a
David.
fabulous day. Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Thanks.
everyone. Bye, Karen.
Bye.